Hello there. This is Heirs to the Kingdom channel. And in today's study, we're in Isaiah chapter 3. Got more good stuff like we did yesterday in chapter 2. But this is going to be more of, you're going to notice a lot of stuff that's happening in America and all around the world. This was a punishment. Chapter 3 is talking about a punishment coming to Israel for their disobedience to God. And a lot of this resembles the same things that's going on in America today and other parts of the world. And there's going to be some words in here that I'm going to try my best to decipher, because, it's a lot of these are going to be the names of things of their time that we call them something a little bit different today. But it's still going to, it pretty much means the same thing. But yeah, if you're new to this is a Bible study channel. I go through the King James Bible. I know God approves of that version. That's why I stay with it. And, it's, once you understand the words and stuff, it's very easy to navigate, to understand. It really is. But I said, I know God approves of this version. I've read other versions, and there's just areas in them that changes the meanings of things, and not in a good way at times. So that's why I stay with King James. But if you're new to this, I do recommend starting off at Genesis chapter 1 on my channel and getting caught up. There's a lot to go through, a lot of stuff that's you won't really understand these parts coming up and everything until you've actually started at the beginning and worked your way up. It's kind of like, understanding a story, and it's got to be like a pyramid. You have to have the foundation. It's got to all be stacked up properly, or you don't get the point at the top of it all. You miss things. But let's go and get started in there. And a lot of this is going to be self-explanatory, and a lot of this is, as I said, there's going to have to be some slight deciphering. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started in here, and you'll see. Chapter 3, verse 1. For behold, the Lord of hosts, doth take away from Jerusalem and from Judah the stay and the staff. That's supply and support. A staff is what you would do to support something, like a cane or a crutch. And a stay is things that you have as a supply. Stuff that, I guess it would be like the same thing. This is stuff you have that stays with you. These are your supplies. Is more of how it came, that we use a different word today. But anyways, let's continue on. The whole stay of bread and the whole stay of water. The mighty man and the man of war, the judge and the prophet and the prudent and the ancient. These are things that God's going to remove. Now, America started following feminism and started following themselves. And these are the things that we started losing. We had a big drought. We had a Great Depression. Had a lot of people starving. So now scientists have came in, and we've got super glutens, the super wheat, that grows easier, but it also is killing us because it's got an overabundance of the bad stuff and not enough of the good stuff in it, because it's modified from the original. But this is what we eat today. So the bread we eat today is nothing compared to the bread we ate of yesteryears, before scientists came out and created the genetically modified wheat. But either or, our mighty men are going away. We got nothing but mostly betas and simps. And the man of war, we don't have an army that most people would even trust to defend a Home Depot or a Big Lots versus a country. We have judges today that follow party lines. They don't follow the Constitution or the rule of law. And the prophet. We don't really have many people speaking for the Lord anymore. They're too busy trying not to offend the congregation. And the prudent and the ancient. The ancient are going to be your elders. Elders are people that's going to give you wisdom and understanding, where you're coming from in life, where you're going, and what's going to happen. I guess the word, the prudent is going to be like the diviner, the people that give you divine wisdom. I guess it would be the same way that you would have the words of stoicism. Now, these things are starting to come back because men are starting to come back to the Lord. Not the women, but the men are. And with that, if the men stay leading properly, they're going to bring the women back to the Lord, and that's going to bring the families back to the Lord, and that's going to bring society back to the Lord. Someone has to start it somewhere, and men are stepping up to the point that they're walking away from marriages, dating, everything, if they have to. Depart and be ye separate of the world. And if it's worldly, throw it away. Don't mess with it. Don't touch it. It's evil. Stay away. Blah, blah, blah. And God's getting through to the men. It's, this is what it seems, anyways, the stuff that's going on, and it's spreading. But mostly it's only spreading in America today because our judges, our court systems, and the women are so evil today that men are left with nothing but God. And that's what God will do. God will take away everything from your society until you plead with him and say, I'll help you, but all you got to do is do it my way. And that's all you need to do, and it'll pretty much correct itself. But I'm saying, we're still in these times, though, especially in a lot of the country. Let's continue on. These are things still that God's taken away. The captain of 50 and the honorable man and the counselor and the cunning artificer and the eloquent orator. Another word for the cunning artificer would be, a skilled craftsman. We can't find mechanics today. One, the job doesn't pay worth a flip, and the vehicles are too complicated to work on. There's no benefit to being a mechanic today, so men are walking away from that industry. Being a mechanic, you'll go bankrupt today. Unless you own your own shop, but even then, the dealerships and the manufacturers, they make vehicles that are so specific to that system only that you have to have the dealerships' specialty tools and all their equipment to even work on the things. So they're pretty much trying to shut out the mom and pa shops. I was a mechanic most of my life. I know what I'm talking about here. I fall into that same category where I quit being a mechanic because vehicles today make no sense whatsoever. They're just complex upon complex upon complex, and it's ruining the industry. It's ruining the people, and people are just walking away. It's like, screw it, Let it burn before. He's like, most people say put a match to it before I even try to put a wrench to it. That's how idiotic modern cars are made. They're super stupid in every way known to man. I tell anybody, you lease a vehicle, and that way when it starts having problems, you just go get another one. They have to fix it, not you. You do not want to even you don't want to try to touch these things. They're just whatever. Now, you still got a lot of men taking up the skilled trades like your air conditioners, plumbing, HVAC techs, and installers, plumbing, electrician, construction, this, that, and the other. But mechanics are going away. And you got a lot of people, they're not wanting to do these hard labor jobs no more because they're not financially beneficial, because the cost of everything keeps going up and their pay really isn't. And you got a lot of modern men growing up today, they don't want to do these jobs at all. Once you have these older people dead and gone or retired, you ain't going to have an industry left, because we don't have men anymore. We have little boys in adult bodies, and we have satanic little girls in adult female bodies too. The only way to fix a society, sometimes it's got to crumble and then be built back by the the stronger, you know the ones that survive. And of course, another thing I looked up says the eloquent orator is like a clever enchanter. And I guess that could be like a poet, stuff like that. Poetry gave us hope. It gave us beautiful stories of love and admiration and everything. It gave us hope that there's still kindness in the world. I think it's going to be those type of people are going to just be gone. We don't really have them anymore whatsoever. Like, look at our modern movies. It's all stupid. No one's even wanting to watch them anymore because there's nothing in there worth watching. It's like, it's garbage. It's junk. We don't have good stories or stuff anymore. We have nothing to look forward to. Now, some people in America do, but most of Americans, they don't see a light at the end of the tunnel no more. They really don't. But let's continue on, verse 4. And I will give children to be their princes, and babes shall rule over them. And in our society today, what do we have? We got children leading the families. They're spoiled brats, and they'll scream and cry and to get their way and everything else. And parents says, whatever, here, take it and shut up. Your children are leading the homes today. Parents have no rule over their children, if they even get to have children. And you have nothing but young people growing up thinking that they should be rulers when they don't even know how to tie their shoes properly. They don't know how to do anything properly, but they think that they should be in charge because they think they're wiser than the ancient ones, the elders. No one wants to listen to the elders, and So this is the society that we're kind of in today. We're being punished by God. And we pretty much done it to ourselves because we didn't stay true to the words of the Lord. We started following ourselves. Feminism, prime example, came onto the scene heavily in the 60s and the sexual revolution. In the 1950s, it was already starting there with the rock and roll movement and stuff, and everybody started going to concerts instead of to church. They were worried more about an education in the world instead of an education in the Lord. Because they got to get that good job. They got to get this, got to get that. And say, hey, you better be holy more than anything. God will give the rest, but you first must have the Lord. But everybody started putting faith in themselves, and then slowly their bricks started crumbling. And it's like, I've told other people, like even today, it's like, we got to go back to the basics. Because it doesn't matter how many things you put on top of a crappy foundation, the house is still going to crumble. We got to fix our foundation. We got to go back to the basics. Every system has to go back to the basics of doing what is right first and doing a correct job and building something or doing something that's worthy, and then build on top of that. Right now, our entire industry, almost every bit of it is, it's a house of cards, one little, and that's it. It all comes crumbling down. It doesn't take much. And we're at that point now. Let's continue on. Verse 5. And the people shall be oppressed, everyone by another, and everyone by his neighbor. The child shall behave himself proudly against the ancient, and the base against the honorable. Now, of course, we use the word base today in a totally different way. And this time, the base meant nobody. The nobody or nothing against the honorable. It's like the DEI stuff. Prime example, boom, that's what we have today. The DEI hires are superseding the people that should have the jobs. So they're taking in the nobodies and kicking out the people that should be in those jobs, that know how to do those jobs and would do a better job than anyone else. This is the kind of stuff we're doing this stuff today. So we're destroying ourselves today. And it's because God has put people in charge to make this happen, because America walked away from God. We are responsible for these people in charge that are doing these type of things because we do not want to follow God's word. Everybody's they're doing like the hissing sound of a vampire to the Bible like it's a cross, from a vampire movie. They're like running away from the word of God, like, no, get it away. And you can't survive that way. Your society will fall apart. It's happening. It ain't that it's going to happen. It is happening now. We are in this today. Not every state in America, but many places all around the world. Like Ireland. I'm Scot-Irish. I've always wanted to go, possibly even live in my homeland of Ireland. I think it's a beautiful country, but they're killing off their own livestock because of cow farts. They put a woman in charge, and they're speaking of this. That's in this as well, that women would be the rulers, and women rule horribly. They put a woman in charge of Ireland. She says, "Oh, we got to save the planet, so we got to kill off our food supply because they fart." Somebody told us that farts are bad. And I'm like, sometimes you need to have your head bashed against a wall a few times to knock some common sense into it to understand that's your food source. There's no way whatsoever in the history of this planet that our farts are going to destroy it. There's no way. I don't care what scientist says, whatever, they're an idiot. They are literally put in place to see how stupid you're going to be in following their rhetoric if you believe in that stuff. But I was saying, we're worldwide, we're in this today. Most of this world does business with a communist nation, and that communist nation is building an army that's superseding everyone else's, to where they're going to be the strongest powerhouse, and we financed it. We sent our jobs there and then purchased those products, giving them all our money. And so we have nothing and they're getting everything, and they believe in communism. They believe in government dictatorship rule, and they kill Christians. They kill all religious beliefs. They kill them all. They don't want none of them to exist because they want man rule over man. And we're funding it. This is how lost our whole system is today. Let's continue on here. Verse 6. When a man shall take hold of his brother of the house of his father, saying, Thou hast clothing, be thou our ruler, and let this ruin be under thy hand. Now, normally that's talking about passing the buck. It's like, say, I had a brother and I'm the elder. I will take a hold of my brother and I'll say, you take charge. I don't want to be in charge. I don't want the responsibility. And it's like, I done destroyed this. Now here, you be in charge now and deal with what I've destroyed. It's now your responsibility. I don't want it. The clothing part would be like the coat of many colors. Like here, I'm gonna give the airship to you. Type stuff. Like I said, a lot of people doing it today. They're passing the buck. It's like, I just want what I can get out for me, and then I don't care if it destroys everything else. As long as I get what I want, someone else can deal with the problem that I created. That I'm saying, like that's our society today in a lot of places. Verse 7. Remember what we already went through. There's nothing new under the sun. What happened then is happening now. It's going to happen again. As I said, the Bible says it plain as day. It's like people make the same mistakes because people are easily swayed by Satan. God will bless them. They'll have a great time. They'll have a good life. And next thing you know, they said, we don't need God no more. We can do it ourselves. And this is the outcome. A society without the Lord leading it is this. Let's continue on verse 7. In that day shall he swear, saying, I will not be an healer, for in my house is neither bread nor clothing. Make me not a ruler of the people. For Jerusalem is ruined, and Judah is fallen, because their tongue and their doings are against the Lord, to provoke the eyes of his glory. Now, another thing there is talking about someone grabbing their brother and this, that, and the other. Is all these corporations doing business with China. They've done destroyed our economy to the point I don't think we're going to be able to bring it back. It's going to take us decades, but we're going to have to stop doing business with China immediately, and we're going to start bringing our corporations back very rapidly. If not, it's like, because we don't have anybody that even wants to do good work. Even if we bring our corporations back, our products are going to be crappier than Chinese products. And that's a horrible thought. That's how bad Americans have become, how lazy they've become, how worldly they have become. That, I deal with it all the time. Like, they just want a paycheck. They don't want to do a job. They just want to sit there, play on their phones, play video games, and get paid for it. And they think that that's how life should be. And it's like, yeah, it's, I see it clear as day. Hopefully you do as well. Because if I never got to have any children, and if we don't start fixing our children, which is our next generation, it's just going to get worse. So you parents out there that have children, start making sure. Remember, the Bible says fear of the Lord means knowledge of the Lord. Knowledge of the word, and the Lord means being more righteous. So if you don't have the fear of the Lord, you're not going to get knowledge and righteousness, because you don't fear the Creator. Let's continue on verse 9. The show of their countenance doth witness against them. Now remember, countenance is their rivalry. Being, competitive against each other. Keeping up with the Joneses is another thing that it falls into. Let's continue on. And they declare their sin as Sodom, they hide it not. Woe unto their soul, for they have rewarded evil unto themselves. Now this is God's chosen people have done this. This is the land of Israel. They were cast into slavery multiple times. But we're not God's chosen people. America isn't. He can cast us into slavery one time and then we no longer exist. But he's not going to abandon Israel and the Israelites. He just had to punish them to get them to come back to him. There may not be an America in the future on our current path. There won't be on our current path. It'll just be gone and just a little blip in the history books. Saying, well, they tried this and everything else, but, then they got too big for their britches and got taken down. Anyways, verse 10. Say ye to the righteous that it shall be well with him, for they shall eat the fruit of their doings. So remember, God does say he takes care of his children. Our needs will be met. And you'll get the fruit, how you live, that's what you'll be rewarded with. Now, of course, we're under different than that. We're under grace today. They were under the law then. So there is a difference in that area there. Let's continue on, verse 11. Woe unto the wicked, it shall be ill with him, for the reward of his hand shall be given him. So this is just like we use karma today, this, that, and the other. We use the word karma, whatever it is, to describe stuff like that. You'll get what you give. Isn't it? In other words. Verse 12. As for my people, children are their oppressors, and women rule over them. O my people, they which lead thee cause thee to err, and destroy the way of thy paths. So today, we got female politicians, female judges, women wanting to rule. These are not godly women. I don't care what they say. I don't care what church they are a member of. I don't care how much money they give in tithing. I don't care. They are not godly women because they want to rule. They always use something as an excuse saying, well, I'm just doing this because men aren't stepping up. That's not your place. You know, men will step up if you get out of the way. But it's like women keep wanting to be a side seat driver to the point men just says, here, you drive. I'm going to sit here and just shut up. That's how weak men have become, because they yes dear, yes dear, yes dear. They become yes dear men. They're betas. You know, that's what they have become. And single mothers made them that way. Taught them to be that way. You know, boys aren't raised to be men anymore. They're raised to be slaves. They're raised to obey the woman, not obey God, and not be the leader. And women are raised to rule over men and try to be the rulers because say we're better than men. And just saying, this is the stuff going on today, and it's spreading all around the world. And every society that's done this, their society collapses. China's society is collapsing too because they do this very same thing, in a sense. They're not pushing marriages, traditional paths, or this, that, and the other. It's all about self-pleasure. Let's continue on. Verse 13. The Lord standeth up to plead, and standeth to judge the people. The Lord will enter into judgment with the ancients of his people, and the princes thereof. For ye have eaten up the vineyard, the spoil of the poor is in your houses. Now remember, they're commanded in their times that, you know, you get what you need, and any extra you have, you give to the poor. Well, see, now people are storing. I talked about this before. I go there to get go to Food Line to get some good prices on meat because I don't make much money and stuff. And people will go in there that's got these deep freezers. They'll buy up everything and leave nothing for everyone else. It's that same thing. It's just greed and gluttony and wanting to have it all for themselves. You know, we do this today. This is stuff going on today. And it's like Little Caesars does this. At the end of the shift, they have a special dumpster with a special cutaway that they slide all the pizzas that weren't bought into it into the dumpster. They don't give it to people, to homeless or to the poor or nothing else so it gets consumed and used. They'll throw it away because their whole thing is, well, if we're not making a profit off of it, no one gets it. It's the exact same thing. You know, greed is the biggest destroyer of everything and everybody. The love of money is the root to all evil. Let's continue on 15. What mean ye that ye beat my people to pieces and grind the faces of the poor, saith the Lord God of hosts? Moreover, the Lord saith, because the daughters of Zion are haughty. Remember that this is Zion was this beautiful mountain, beautiful city area, and everything else of their time. It's known as God's mountain, but the people on it are supposed to be holier than thou, not worldly. But every place is being perverted, and haughty is people thinking that they're superior, that they should rule, that they should be over everyone else. As I said, this ain't nothing new under the sun. Women have done this in the past, and they're doing it today. The first woman on earth did this. She sinned against God because Satan said, if you eat of this, you'll be like God. And that said that, hey, I won't have to live under his rule. I will be an equal, so I won't have to live. I won't have to be under my husband. So that's why she ate of the forbidden fruit. And then man listened to the words of the woman instead of listening to God. And every so often, society's got to course correct in a very harsh way. So that's what's happening now. Anyways, let's continue reading this, starting over with, because the daughters of Zion are haughty, and walk with stretched forth necks, and wanton eyes, walking and menacing as they go, and making a tinkling with their feet. Now, if you're sitting there walking and menacing, that means shaking their hips, shaking their butts. Like, the reason why women wear high heels makes their butts shake when they walk. It's that, making themselves sexy. And, of course, tinkling their feet, that's jewelry on their ankles, this, that, and the other. Making themselves fishing lures. This is why in New Testament, Jesus says a woman is to dress modestly with unbordered hair, no gold or pearls or costly array. You're not even allowed to wear this stuff anymore. Jesus says enough is enough of women making themselves fishing lures, trying to entice men. If they dress that way, they're not godly. Period. No earrings, no necklaces, no nothing. No nose piercings, no jewelry whatsoever. The only thing she's allowed to have is a wedding band. That shows that she belongs to a man. All this high heel stuff and tight clothing and blah, blah, blah. There's more in here. Let's continue on with 17. Therefore the Lord will smite with a scab the crown of the head of the daughters of Zion. It says, smite with a scab. You're going to take away, everything that they have. Let's see. It said, and the Lord will discover their secret parts. In that day the Lord will take away the bravery of their tinkling ornaments about their feet, and their cauls, and their round tires like the moon. Now, I had to look up some of these things. I'm like, what are these things talking about? But the round tires like the moon is a you got to remember, you had people, they started, one of the false gods was worshiping the moon. They worshiped the sun god and the moon god and stuff. So they wore necklaces with moon ornaments on them. Crescent, and so here the description says a crescent necklace. And see, we got, they're going to take away like, I'm trying to hold on one second. Okay, so I'm going back to 17. My notes I had written about that, I got mixed up there. When it's talking about smite with a scab, means put sores on their heads. That's going to have scabs on the crown of their heads. They're going to have, they're going to have sores and stuff like that. And I'm talking about, they will discover their secret parts. A woman is always to adorn a head covering. Old Testament and New Testament. It's never changed. And New Testament says a woman is to adorn a head covering while praying and prophesying. It's shameful if she does not do these things. If she does not adorn a head covering, a man is not to adorn a head covering while praying and prophesying. But we're to pray everywhere. So throughout all history, women are supposed to keep their heads covered. And part of their covering is also their hair. And it says we'll discover their secret parts. It means they would, take their hair away, make them bald. So that's what it's meaning there. Anyways, back to 18. We're talking about, the bravery of their tinkling ornaments. That was, it's kind of self-explanatory. Like, when women do all this stuff, it gives them more like, I'm this, I'm that. And he's going to take all that away because their tinkling ornaments are going to mean nothing. Their bravery of wearing is going to be more of what's happening today with a lot of men sitting there saying, no, if you're acting this way, dress this way, this, that, and the other, you're useless. And so this, they're taking away the bravery of their tinkling ornaments about their feet. I said in their time and stuff, they used dance, seductive dance, and they moved their feet around because their bodies were covered but their feet, so they left their feet bare so men could see some bare skin on them. So, in another sense like that, I don't know if you ever seen like these seductive dances of these Arab nations of the jiggling hips with all the jewelry and the belly showing and stuff like that. Kind of like that's what women would do. They're still doing it today, just a little differently, but it's the same effect. But the cause part, I wanted to look up some of that stuff, and it's like, it's like bangles and headbands. And then it's talking about the crescent necklaces. So calls would be another word. It says, bangles and headbands. I guess it was the stuff that they used part of their clothing. I'm going to say definitely it was something to deal with their clothing. He's going to smite all that stuff, take it away. Take away its effect as well, make it, utterly useless. Continue on verse 19. He talks more about these things. The chains and the bracelets and the mufflers. Now, of course, mufflers are not meaning like car mufflers. Muffler is also something that they use to cover their mouth, so it was a veil, like the face covering part too. Because God never says that you had to cover your face. He just says cover the head. A woman's to wear adorn a head covering, not a face covering. Let's see. Continue on here. 20. The bonnets and the ornaments of the legs, and the headbands and the tablets and the earrings. It's like, kind of messes you up when you hear headbands down here, and the muffler is also supposed to be something of the where it's talking about, the call being that bangles thing back in 18, but says we're getting the main theme here, that this is stuff women wore to make themselves more enticing to men and to give themselves, authority over men or whatever else. It was pretty much like I always say, women making themselves fishing lures. There's like, Jesus says no to any of that stuff. You're to be as plain Jane and as homely looking as you can be. You're supposed to be valued for who you are, not what you look like, is the primary thing. You're supposed to, if you're naturally pretty and stuff like that, okay, but a man is not to desire a fishing lure. He's to desire a real godly woman. And that's what a godly woman is to be. Anything acting like these is something that you should not mess with. This is what the daughters of Zion are becoming. Let's continue on here with 21. The rings and nose jewels. So, the rings could be earrings. It could be finger rings. We know what nose jewels are. We already have a lot of that. It's like, hey, if she got pierced nose or that cow thing in her nose, stuff like that, that septum ring, get away from her. She's a psycho. She's going to do you nothing but harm. If she's willing to do all that stuff to herself, then she is not something you want in your life. Let's continue on here in 22. The changeable suits, which of course, clothing, of apparel, and the mantles and the wimples and the crisping pins. Some more stuff, kind of had to look up a little bit. But of course, we got, the fine robes. Let me see, the mantles and the wimples and the crisping pins. The crisping pin is supposed to be something like a purse. The mantles and wimples would be stuff like capes and cloaks. Well, as said, more of their apparel. Like, look at me, look at me, look at me. Which Jesus says women are not to be any of that stuff. So I said, Jesus took it all away. God doesn't want women to be that way either. He's always commanded them to, be under their husband. Throughout beginning, all the way to the end, and even into the next world, the woman is to be her husband's helpmate. That was the reason for her creation. Always, Genesis chapter 2 goes all the way back to that. Her creation was to be her husband's helpmate. Then he gave the rule, who was the husband of the woman? The man that takes her virginity. But let's continue on here. I'm getting jumping down other rabbit trails here. We're almost done with this. 26 verses in this. So we got 23. The glasses and the fine linen and the hoods and the veils. Now, of course, hoods and veils. The head coverings, this, that, and the other, and face coverings. Fine linen, we know what that is. But the glasses is like also another thing for a mirror. So yeah, they had ways of making mirrors and stuff even back then. 24. And it shall come to pass that instead of sweet smell, there shall be stink. And instead of a girdle, a rent. Now, a girdle is something that held something together, and rent is something torn. And instead of well set hair, I'm sorry. And instead of well set hair baldness, and instead of a stomacher, a girding. Okay, so well set. Well, it should be a comma between that well set hair. Instead of well set hair, there'll be baldness instead. And instead of a stomacher, a girding of sackcloth. So I guess, more clothing, but sackcloth was like the most uncomfortable fabric you could wear. And burning instead of beauty. They have STDs that do that type of things. Maybe that's what they... but I was talking about burning is more of a branding instead of, women that got branded, they were like become slaves, or they were criminals being marked, or this, that, and the other. They branded. They were marked as useless or evil or stuff like that. It's like even in the times of America, if you were a soldier and you abandoned your people and stuff, you could be branded with a C on your forehead, indicating coward. If it wasn't enough to be shot dead for of an abandonment, because even today they still have firing squads in the military. But, they would brand you if you were a deserter. You'd have a C on your forehead or cheek or something to be very visible. So they've been doing stuff like that to keep people in line for a very long time. Because people in their natural habitat are very untrustworthy. If they're not following the Lord and ruled by Christ, they are not going to be your friend. There's always a secret agenda that's going to be selfishness about it. Let's continue on finishing this up. Thy men shall fall by the sword, and thy mighty in the war. And her gates shall lament and mourn, and she being desolate shall sit upon the ground. That's talking about the gates of the city of Mount Zion. Which means God doesn't care what He's called you and what He brought you into. If you do not stay to His rules, His commandments and statutes, and His guidelines, He will destroy it all and put it all to the ground before He'll let it stand and continue in evilness. So, that's how the short lesson of that is. That stood then, that stands today. And America is doing a course correction, but hopefully it will be enough before it's too late. Then hopefully we can start bringing the rest of the world back to common sense. But anyways, that's the end of this lesson. And I've talked enough. I just looked at the timer, and I'm almost at 44 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and end this lesson here. Remember to pray. You got to pray for yourself. He said, we got to pray for ourselves. We got to pray for each other. We got to pray that we stay on the path of righteousness, because it is very easy to fall off that path. And a lot of times we'll fall off of it and not know that we did, and we'll start chasing the wrong thing, thinking it's holy and it's worldly. We got to make sure that we don't do that thing. It's very easy to happen. But, yeah, pray for the lost as well. Remember the people from the flood victims from North Carolina all the way down, and Tennessee all the way down to Florida. And remember out west in California with all their either man-made or whatever made fires that's destroying everything, because there wasn't supposed to be nothing there anyways, because it's the desert. But, hey, stupid is as stupid does. Let's put wood homes in a desert and that's prone to wildfires. It'll be fine. We got to pray that they get their act straight too and quit following the world and get back to God. They used to be godly out there, but chasing the almighty dollar, that destroys every nation, any nation, doesn't matter who it is. Israel has destroyed them multiple times. But yeah, so I'm jumping down another rabbit trail. So until next time, God bless, good night, and goodbye.